Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Micah and today I have a book haul for you. Not just any book haul, oh no. This is a year-long book haul. All of the books you'll see in this video I bought over the past year. The last time I did a book haul was around the same time last year, so I think like January, February 2018. And at the time I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I kept track of all of the books I buy in an entire year and then sort of do one giant book haul. So that's why there is so much here. I definitely didn't acquire all of these books within like the past couple of weeks or something like that. That would be absolutely crazy. I tend to read somewhere between the 40 and 50 books every single year, and I just counted all of the books and there should be 57 here. So that means I bought about as many as that I read. So that I think is a pretty nice sweet spot. Some of the books that I'm about to show you I have already read in the past year as well, because I just wanted to prioritize them and put them at the top of my list. And there are a couple of different categories that I have for you. So I'm going to take it category by category, from nonfiction to first books in a YA series that I want to read, or first book in a fantasy series, or continuations of series that I bought. So there's going to be a couple of categories here. And since there are 57 books I need to talk to you about, let's just get to it, because this is going to be a long one. Let's just start with the book that I'm currently reading, because this is what I'm in the middle of. You can see my bookmark here. I'm roughly halfway through, and this is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This book was very much hyped about last year, and I think the second book just came out this month, The Wicked King, and this is a YA fantasy series set around Fae. And so far, I'm not really enjoying myself reading this. I feel it's very tropey, and it has all of the YA tropes I don't really like. So it has an insufferable main character who thinks she's oh so fabulous, and yet she isn't really. There's a very big focus on how pretty she is as well. They're just not really themes that I enjoy in YA. I like that it's Fae-centered. I do enjoy that, but I feel that since I just also read another book that I will be showing you later on, which is also set in a Fae sort of inspired world, it almost feels like I'm sort of reading the same book because it's so similar setting-wise. So I don't feel this is wholly original either. So that's why it's okay. It's keeping me reading. It's a very nice, quick, and easy read. But other than that, I don't think that this will be something that I will go back to and continue reading. But I really like the cover of this, so this will definitely has deserved its spot on my shelves. Another first book that was very much hyped about a couple of years ago is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. This is a book that I heard a lot of great things about, and I'm really liking reading fantasy books, so I just wanted to give this a whirl, see if I like it. If I don't like it, I will not continue the series. A book that I sort of found because I was looking for a different book actually that I will show you later on, which is part of a series that I love and that I've read several books of, and that's also about a library. But this is Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane. I'm not sure if this is YA. I'm not sure how to categorize this. I have absolutely no clue what this book is about, apart from the fact that it's about a great library that is ruthless and supremely powerful. So if it's about books and all that kind of stuff, then I'm game. And I really like the cover because it sort of looks like an old book, which I think is very pretty. But this just came up in my recommendations when I was looking for that other series, and I was like, oh, that sounds like something that I might enjoy, so that's why I picked this up. Another much raved about series, and I hate that this cover isn't prettier because it also has very pretty covers, but sadly, mine doesn't. This is The Alchemists of Loom by Elise Kova, and again, this is one of those fantasy YA series that a lot of people were talking about I think a year or two ago, and I had just not gotten around picking it up yet, and it sounds like something that I might enjoy, so I figured I could give it a try. A book that more and more people are seeming to very much like is Neal Shusterman's Scythe. This is about a society where people don't die, so they have scythes that actually go out and kill people, and someone gets trained to be one of these scythes, apparently, in this first book. This is also a series, and again, I just bought the first one to see if I like it, and to see if there's something that I can get on board with. I have heard a lot of things about Neal Shusterman as an author, and that he's very great, so this would be my first Neal Shusterman book, so let's see if we like it. A fantasy series set in, I think, like 17th century or 18th century Egypt, I think, is The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, I think. That's how you probably say it. This, again, looks stunning, and it's set in Egypt, which is one of, like, I used to be really into like Egyptian mythology and like ancient Egypt, so maybe some of that is still in here. Oh, it's set in 18th century Cairo. There it is. It's about thieves, tricksters, con artists. I always enjoy those kind of books, so I'm pretty sure that I'll be able to get on with this. A book that I have been umming and ahhing about for the longest time is Three Dark Crowns by Kendar Blake. This book is a book about, I think, a queen who gets triplets, and then they are separated at birth, and they are raised by different factions within the country, and then they ultimately need to battle each other for the crown. So that sounds very intriguing, a little bit dark. If this is well written, I might actually really enjoy it, but with YA, I'm always a little bit iffy, so I'm not sure yet what to expect of this one. Another umming and ahhing book, but that I just decided to cave and pick up this year, was Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Some people really love this, but some people also really hated it. It seems to be very much sort of like Night Circus inspired. That was the book I really enjoyed, and some people have been saying that this is very much a rip-off of that. But yeah, at least that's what I heard. But still, it seems to be something that I might enjoy. I'm just going to give it a try. I'm not sure if this is actually a series or a standalone. I think it's a series. Another book that simply popped up in like a recommended part of Book Depository when I placed an order is Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. And this is a book that it's like a fantasy novel, but it's set with like Japanese or Asian inspired mythology behind it, or magic systems. I'm not exactly sure, but this cover, oh, so pretty. And like I said, I have no clue what this book is about, but it seems to be a newer book that is currently being picked up a little bit in the hype machine. So maybe I can get around to it when the hype builds a little bit more. I can read it then, because usually I'm a little bit late to the game, I have to say. We have The Crowns Game by Evelyn Skye. When this was first published, it immediately appealed to me. I just haven't been able to pick it up yet, and now I have. I believe this is set in like a Russian-inspired fantasy world. That seems to be something I like. I like the Grisha world, so maybe I like this too. Who knows? This is Beasts of Night by, oh, I'm going to butcher this name, Toki Onyebuchi, I hope. I'm sorry if that was not how you're supposed to say it. This is an African, I think West African, Nigerian influenced fantasy, and I found this actually at my local bookstore. I thought the cover was cool. The premise sounds really cool as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to like it though, because the reviews don't seem to be all that much. But we'll see. I just thought that this was something out there that I hadn't heard anybody talking about that I could try. Another book in this category, we're almost there, is Showstopper by Haley Barker. Again, the cover just really appealed to me. It seems to be having a very similar premise to Caraval, actually, so I'm not sure whether I like it. But I know someone who read this in Dutch and absolutely loved it, so I'm sort of buying it off of her recommendation, so we'll see. And then last in this category is York the Shadow Cipher by Laura Ruby. And this is a book that, again, found at my local bookstore. And I don't know anything about this apart from the fact that it's set in New York and that the buildings in New York form a cipher that needs to be solved, which sounds really cool to me. It's just something that I haven't heard anybody talking about. So this is one that's flying under the radar. I have no clue whether this will be good. I could barely find this online anywhere, so we'll see. Next category would be nonfiction. I only have 2 of them, so that makes it short and sweet. And I picked up both of these books when I was in London. There's a bookstore in the Brick Lane area, which I believe is just called the Brick Lane Bookstore. And whenever I'm in London, I love browsing them because they have a good section on like London history, especially on the history of the East End. And that's a part that I really, really enjoy. So I have Sarah Wise's The Blackest Streets, The Life and Death of a Victorian Slum. I read a book this year that actually cited this book as being one of the inspirations and information sources that the author read to write that. I think it was Sarah Perry's The Essex Serpent. And this is definitely one of those books that is about sort of Victorian London and the slums of the East End, where people sort of, you know, you live there, you die there. Most people are homeless or out of work or going from job to job, and sort of how that life in that area in the East End would be. So that's something I'm very interested in reading about it a little bit more, so that's why I picked that up. And the last one is Night Walking by Matthew Beaumont, and this is a book that is about sort of like different areas of London and like what happens if you were to take a walk around that area at night. So that would be really, really cool. I don't think it's particularly like, historical in that sense, but it's much more about current day London, I think. But it's a nocturnal history of London. That just sounded like something that I might really enjoy. And again, the cover of this is very, very pretty. So there's another very small category that we have coming up, and that's sort of like literary fiction standalones, or like different category books. They're all adult fiction. An author that I'm really hoping to explore a bit more is Daphne du Maurier, I think that's how you say it. I bought 2 of her books. I bought Rebecca, which is a gothic classic, and Jamaica Inn, which is the first one I actually bought because it sounded really, really cool. And I'd never seen her name anywhere, but it's like, Rebecca is like one of the longest running books in print. It's never been out of print since it was written, so that's pretty good for a book. And this is just some literary fiction that I hope to be getting into. A while ago, I did a full video on Gothic fiction and sort of like my recommendations of what I understand to be Gothic fiction. And someone left a comment on that video recommending this book. This is Matthew Lewis the Monk, and it's a Penguin classic. I'm not exactly sure anymore what this is about, but it just sounded very intriguing when I looked it up. So when I was at Waterstones in London, I decided to pick it up because I knew I'd be able to find it there. It's not a very long book, so maybe I should just pick this up sometime soon. And then 2 books that I don't really think are like literary fiction per se, but they are adult standalones, and one of them is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is like a mystery thriller kind of book, and I just want to read some more of that, and I hear great reviews of this. So that's why I just decided to throw it in when I could find it for quite an affordable price point. And then the last sort of standalone I have for you is this. This came to me recommended by a colleague of mine, and this is The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbary. This was originally first published in French, and then it was translated, and it's one of the most sold books in recent years, apparently. A lot of people seem to love this. I already read it, and I really enjoyed it as well. Another smaller category I have for you are some gifts that I received this year for birthdays, etc., etc., and also some like mythology retellings, and they sort of like join up. A book that I got for my birthday is the 20th anniversary edition hardback for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets in the Ravenclaw colors, because I'm a Ravenclaw, and my friends got me this for my birthday, so that was very nice. Another gift that is also a mythology retelling, so this is where the connection comes in, is this book. This is Heroes by Stephen Fry. One of my students got me this. How lovely is that? I was her graduation supervisor, and when she graduated, she said she wanted to get me something, and I couldn't make it, but she still got me something. So there we have it. That was very, very cool. I already read and bought Mythos earlier in the year, so I know that since I like this, I will like this too. So Mythos by Stephen Fry and Heroes by Stephen Fry. This one was a gift. This one I bought myself, but I really, really enjoy Greek, like any mythology I loved, especially around my like late teens. I was totally into it, so I used to read a lot of the Greek mythology myself, so having a retelling like this is actually really nice. Another book I've already read is the mythology retelling by Neil Gaiman of Norse mythology. I also had already read quite a bit about Norse mythology before I dived into this, because of my fascination with mythology when I was a bit younger. So I did think that the Stephen Fry ones are a little bit better because it sort of puts the stories in a modern day context almost, like he makes little allusions to like, this is how it would work nowadays. Neil Gaiman doesn't really do that, and I found that the writing in this it's very quick and snappy. You'll read through this in like a hot minute, like you'll browse, like you just fly through it. It was nicely written. That I'm not going to say anything about that. Maybe it's just the stories and the source materials he had to work with that it's not as rich. I just think that he could have done a little bit more, taken more out of these stories than he did it. He's sort of like presenting it as is, which can also be enjoyable, but I had hoped that it was something differently. So yeah, I already read this, but it's a nice book, and it has a very pretty cover too. Moving on to the next category, and that is first books in a adult fantasy series. As far as I know, these are all books in a series, or they might be like standalones. They may not all be like technically like super fantasy, but they all have like fantastical elements for sure. Case in point, the first book I have for you, and that is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is about a main character who relives the same day every single time, and he, I think, needs to solve the death of this Evelyn Hardcastle. And yeah, it sounds really, really cool. A little bit of a fantasy twist to it, and it's written by Stuart Turton, so I hope to be reading that sometime soon. It's a bit big, and it's a really heavy hardback because it's not available in paperback yet, but oh well. Sounds really cool. Another hardback that I picked up right like at the tail, like just the start of 2019, so I thought I could still put it in here, is A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. I'm not sure how you say it. I believe this is a Canadian author, French-Canadian, so it was originally written in French again, and this is one of the fantasy books that a lot of people are raving about currently, so I just thought, like, when I read the blurb in the back, I thought, yes, this is something that I would be able to get on with. I'm very curious to see what this will be like. A book that I found in my local bookstore again is Peter V. Brett, The Painted Man. This is a fantasy series that's been around for quite some time. I had never really heard of it, but when I read the back about like demons that they're trying to keep at bay, I thought like, that sounds like something I might enjoy. So that's why I decided to pick up the first one in this series to see if I like it. 2019 is going to be the year that I'm going to try some Brandon Sanderson. I've never read any of his books. I bought The Way of Kings in a paperback edition. This is the US paperback edition. Yeah, I also have the first book of the Mistborn trilogy, so I'm definitely going to be reading one of those. This is a little bit big though, so I think that I'm not going to start with this because this is over 1,000 pages. I'm probably going to start with the other one first, and then maybe move on to this, or maybe I continue that series. But I'm definitely going to be reading some Brandon Sanderson this year. Another series that I hope to get into is the Red Sister series by Mark Lawrence. I'm not exactly sure what this actual series is called. I believe the next book in the series is called Grey Sister. This is so hyped about. It's apparently about a girl who's raised by assassin nuns, and she's trained to be an assassin. I mean, I'm all game for assassin tropes in fantasy novels, so that's why I like this. Apparently it's very well written too, so that would be a very nice added bonus. So the next book was a book that I bought off the recommendation on one of my YouTube videos. This is What Angels Fear by C.S. Harris, and someone told me, hey, I think I see what you like reading and I think you might like this series. It's sort of like historical setting, but it also has a fantasy twist to it. I believe there are like werewolves in here, maybe vampires, witches, I'm not sure. Sort of like historical urban fantasy, I think, I'm not sure. But it's about a detective who tries to solve a mystery. That's all I know. And last but not least, a book that I bought because I watched a video by Emily Fox, who has a booktube channel as well. And she talked about The City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. This is again a fantasy series that has been around for a while. I had again never heard of this, but then I read a little bit more about it and thought that might be nice. So I grouped it into one of my orders that I did this year, and that's how I got this. I have no clue what this is about, as with many of these books I realize. But yeah, this seems to be something that is right up my street. Another category in which I bought some books is sci-fi. I read a few sci-fi books in 2018 and thought maybe I want to read a little bit more because what I've read I quite like. So I thought I could read some more sci-fi. So I asked around my friends and family, hey, do you have any sci-fi recommendations? And then I bought a couple of those things. So some people are really into Jeff Vandermeer. Annihilation is one that's very well loved, it seems, so that is why I decided to pick this up. It seems to be about like a virus, that sort of environmental disaster zone, something like that. Something is going really badly wrong in this book anyway, so it's very short. I think it will be a quick read. One of Jeff Vandermeer's newest books is Born, and I've heard people describing this as being part of like the new weird, because Born is like a creature. It's not even really an animal, but it's some sort of being thing that sort of possesses people, I think. I'm not sure. It just popped up when I was looking up the other book and I thought, oh, that sounds pretty cool. So that sounds something that I would like to try. And then I was recommended this series by Ian M. Banks. I'm pretty sure that this is the first book in this series. I'm not sure what it's called. A culture novel? Maybe it's the culture series, who knows? And it's Consider Phlebas, I think. It's about a galaxy, some war happened. I have no clue what this is about, but it came highly recommended, especially this author, so I just decided to buy first book in a series by him and see if I like it. And then another recommendation that I bought is Alistair Reynolds' House of Suns. This is another one of those like classic sci-fi books set in space. A friend of mine really liked this, so I'm going to see if I like it too. The next section is going to be historical fiction. I like myself a bit of historical fiction. Every now and again, I like changing things up. When I've read a little too much fantasy, I like either going into literary fiction or historical fiction just to keep the balance a little bit better. So I bought a couple. The first one is this. This is We the Drowned by Carsten Jensen. And this is a very, very big book. But it's sort of like maritime history inspired, 19th century, and then sort of like the repercussions of that era later on, it seems. I'm not sure, but it sounded very intriguing, and I was very much gripped by the look and feel of this cover. So even if I don't like this, this is definitely a book that I want to keep on my shelves just because it's pretty. A book that I wasn't really sure where to categorize, but it seems to be historical fiction mostly. It's set in London in 1892. But if it's set in Victorian London, then you know I'm going to love it, because Victorian London is one of my favorite settings. This is The Quick by Lauren Owen. Again, I have no clue what this is about. It's about a guy who wants to be a poet. He vanishes, and then his sister needs to go find him. We'll see. A book that had been on my wish list for a very long time, but I kept deciding, like, do I want this? Do I not want this? And that is Erik Larson's The Devil in the White City. And this is set in Chicago at the Chicago's World Fair in 1893. Again, that Victorian era setting. I can't help myself. And it's like about, there's a World Fair going on, but right next to it, a killer has set up his own sort of like World Fair, but his aim is to kill people. Sounds pretty dark and pretty mysterious, but it sounds like something that I might enjoy. I like quite dark, dreary novels most of the time, so this seems to be something I might like. Then a book that I picked up very randomly at my local bookstore is Benjamin Black's Prague Nights. This is a Penguin edition. It's set in 1599, and it's about a guy who gets drawn into the dark heart of Prague, and he has to find out who killed someone as well. So it's a bit like a detective thing. I'm not sure. It just sounds like something that I might enjoy. And it just, like I said, I found this very randomly at my local bookstore. I have no clue what this is about. And a book that I've heard good and bad reviews about, but that I just think I want to try for myself, is The Queen of the Night by Alexander Chee. This is about, I think, a lady who, is she in the, like in a circus or something like that, and like everybody admires her, but there's also a very dark aspect to it. Sounds pretty intriguing. I'm not exactly sure again what this is about, but it definitely sounds like something that I might enjoy. Right, so we're in for the home stretch, the biggest category, and that is continuation of series that I bought. Some of these I've read, some of these I haven't read yet. Some of these I still have to start the actual series. But still, I like having sometimes a couple of books on hand just so that I can keep going when I'm reading a series, and I just, you know, if I already know that I'm going to like it, I might as well just have all the books in the series so I can just sort of keep going. But there's also some series in here that I've already read, everything that's out, and a new book came out this year, so I bought that. So that's what most of these books are. Let's just start with these series that I discovered in 2018. I bought the first book in this series in my last book haul. It's called The Strings of Murder by Oscar de Muriel. I read that, loved it, so I bought the next 3 books in the series. This last one came out in May. I got the other 2 in sort of like the springtime, read them straight away. Absolutely love it. A book that came out that I'm very happy, I'm sort of saving this one because I think I want to reread the first one first, and that's Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I read Vicious, I think 2 or 3 years ago, and loved it, so I can't wait to happen to find out what happens with these characters in this book. I love this cover too. I think I may want to pick up Vicious in this cover as well so that they match, but by now, like, I have it. I don't need that sort of thing. So that's Vengeful. One of my long-standing favorite fantasy series that I don't hear anybody talking about is the Rivers of London series, Peter Grant series by Ben Aronovich. He came out with 2 new books in the past year, a novella called The Further Station, and the latest installment in the series called Lie Sleeping, which came out in December. Read it over the Christmas time period because I knew I wanted to read this ASAP. I loved it again. These are some great urban fantasy novels. They are set in London. It's about someone learning magic, the really cool magic system, and sort of like set in current day, everyday London. We get mythology thrown into the mix. We get supernatural beings thrown into the mix. There's a little bit of everything in here, and that's why I like it. Another book that I bought and read pretty much instantly, because I knew that this big book, if I didn't have a vacation, I probably wouldn't be able to get around to reading this. And this is the third book in the Dark Artifices series by Cassandra Clare, The Queen of Air and Darkness. Now, I told you, my very first book I showed you, The Cruel Prince, set in the Fey world. This also has that Fey world setting, and that's why I sort of feel that these are a little bit too similar. A series that I started and read completely in 2018 is The Illuminae Files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is the third book, which came out in the spring of 2018, and I read the first two books leading up to the release of this one so that I could read the entire series sort of like in a couple of weeks' time. I really enjoyed this. This is the reason why I want to get more into sci-fi, because I thought sci-fi, aliens, spaceships, do I like that kind of thing? Maybe not, but I did really enjoy this, even though it's set in space, and I thought that I could try some more sci-fi. A last book in a series that came out to a series that I haven't yet read, but that I was sort of waiting to get the last book in, is the Ember in the Ashes series by Saba Tahir. They did a cover change after two books, so I felt that this cover went the best with the other covers I already have, so that's why I bought this one. This is A Reaper at the Gates by, and it's the third book in this series by Saba Tahir. I believe this is set in like a Roman-inspired world with like gladiators, I think. I'm not sure. I think that that's sort of the premise behind it. It's a series that is definitely on my to-read list for 2019. Then I also bought two books in a series that I, again, love. This is an urban fantasy series by Jim Butcher. This is the Dresden Files series, and I just keep buying these every single time I've read one, I buy one. I now have two as backup. These are really quick, easy, fun, entertaining reads. I don't think that these are particularly good books, but they are very entertaining. I just really get sucked into these, and I just want to keep reading, which is why I now have two, because these are the kind of books I want to go to when I'm in a reading slump. So if I feel like, I don't really know what to pick up, these books are the ones that sort of pick it right back up, and I can keep on getting back on the reading train again. So I bought the next two books in the series, which is Grave Peril and Summer Night. Another series that I still need to get to, but that I'm not sure yet when, because I still have to finish the other series that she wrote, is Sarah J. Maas's, what's the first book called again? A Court of Thorns and Roses. This is the novella that came out last year, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and I just thought, let's have the complete set so that I have everything, and that if I want to get to the series, I can just keep on reading. I also picked up the fifth book in the Invisible Library series. Now, I showed you Ink and Bone by Rachel Kane, I believe the author is. This is the reason why I found that book, because this book is about the Invisible Library. That's also the name of the first book in this series. And it's about this library that collects books all across worlds, different time periods, alternate universes. There are dragons, there are fairies, there are werewolves, and we have a very sort of, I think that the main character in here is quite compelling too. And this is the fifth book in the series, and it's written by Genevieve Cogman. So I think I've read the first three books in the series now, and I still need to get to books 4 and 5. Now, the reason why I haven't read the ACOTAR series by Sarah J. Maas yet is because I have yet to finish the Throne of Glass series by her. I have not yet read, I can't remember what it's called, but like the spin-off of the fifth book. So When You Follow Cale Westfall, that one I haven't read yet, and I have found out that it is recommended to read that first before you move on to the sixth and final book in the series, which is Kingdom of Ash. I can't wait to finish the series. Again, it's a behemoth of a book, so I'm probably saving this for a vacation later this year, because I like to read bigger books when I have like a lot of time. But I first need to get to the other one too, so I'm not sure yet how I'm going to do it, but this is definitely going to be on my TBR for 2019. The last book in the Red Queen series was published this year. This is War Storm by Victoria Aveyard. I really enjoyed this series. I know a lot of people are like, it's so tropey and it's got old things, but this has YA tropes that I like. So that's why I liked it. I liked how the book was wrapped up, but there are a couple of loose ends, so the characters don't just like, and they lived happily ever after, which happens in YA a little too often, I find. So I thought that this book was a very good final book in the series, and it definitely wraps it up nicely. I enjoyed this series, and this is definitely one that some point in the future I will probably want to read again. And then we have Rick Riordan's Magnus Chase and The Ship of the Dead. I have to say that I tried reading the next series after the Percy Jackson ones. They're like, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got like Roman mythology in it now too, and I was not really taken with it. But I bought this all the way at the start of 2018 when it came out, I think, and so I still want to try the Magnus J series. I haven't read it yet. I have all 3 books now, so I can easily get to it. But I just felt that everything felt a little too Percy Jackson when I tried reading the next series. So maybe I'm going to skip that and just skip ahead to the Magnus Chase ones. Who knows? And then, last but not least, Robert Galbraith's Lethal White. If you don't know who Robert Galbraith is, that's J.K. Rowling writing detective novels this time. It's about a detective, self-employed, Cormoran strike. He's a war veteran, and he tries to help people in London trying to find killers. The last book in the series came out quite a while ago. This was finally published last fall. J.K. Rowling has just been too busy writing scripts to Fantastic Beasts movies, I think, but I can't wait to start reading this. I thought the first 3 books in the series were really good, and I really enjoy these. And again, it's a big one, but definitely one I want to get to some point in 2019. So there you have it. Those are all the 56 books I bought in 2018, and 2 of them on the first day of 2019, but I thought I could rope them in here so that I have everything together that I've bought up to this point. I know that this is quite outrageous. You don't by any means have to buy these many books in a year. I really enjoy to read. I really enjoy books, and that's why there are all of these books here. Yeah, I definitely did not buy all of this in one go. I want to stress that. And so yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then I would very much appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up, because that helps me getting my videos out there. And if you would like to see more by me, I try to make more bookish content now, then please stay tuned and subscribe to my channel. I make new videos 3 times a week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, 5 a.m. Central European Time. So I hope to see you in my next video, and I hope you have a really lovely day. See you. Bye.